In this video, you will hear a translation of the experiences Naja Sunshine shares with us. So, hello everyone. Today I want to talk about a topic that is very interesting for many people, the topic of past lives. Probably everyone in one way or another has felt that their life here is something more than just this single incarnation. I don't think I've met anyone who truly believes that this is the only life and that there is nothing beyond it. Even people from different religious or cultural backgrounds who might believe this life is the only one still tend to think there is some continuation afterwards, some form of eternal life in a different layer of reality. One way or another, almost everyone agrees that this life is not the final point of our existence. Although I know many people who believe in a one-life religion, meaning we only live now and then there is eternity somewhere else deep inside. They still question it. They sense that life might not be limited to the here and now. Perhaps we will live again somewhere else. We all feel this on a subconscious level, and at a certain point in our self-discovery, we start asking, who am I? What am I like? And of course, we also ask, who was I in a past life? What about my 100 lives before this one? Who was I? How did I become who I am now? And where am I going? These are the questions almost every person wants answered once they embark on the path of self-knowledge. So today, I decided to touch on the topic of past lives not just to speculate and philosophize, but to share a very important experience. We'll consider what happens in a person's life if they remember their past lives. How does it really feel to remember them? Is it a moment of great catharsis, or does it bring certain burdens or responsibilities, including moral perceptions? We'll look at the pros and cons of remembering past lives and try to answer whether we truly need such memories to work through all our soul-level problems in this incarnation, or whether we can handle everything without them. We'll also factor in the specifics of not only incarnations on Earth, but the broader experience of a soul gaining knowledge. I don't plan on just philosophizing about this, but will consider it using my own example. I'm a person who remembers past lives more than one or two, and I have quite a substantial number of memories. I remember them, and they keep coming to me. I also remember not only my individual personalities in separate incarnations, but also who I am as soul, where I came from in this universe, whom I work with on a soul level, what I'm striving for, and why I'm going through these experiences, including life on this earth. All this knowledge and these memories didn't come from the recent sensational phenomenon of sleeper hypnosis, or whatever it's called. In those sessions, people supposedly go into a state where they remember their past lives. They claim to recall being some kind of soul, can explain why they are here, and so on. They often take this information as truth about themselves. I've already discussed what actually happens in such sessions in my turnkey disconnection course, so I won't go deep into it here, but I haven't met a single person who, through these sessions, truly saw their past lives in a genuine, accurate way or came to know who they really are as a soul. From my own experience, I can say how it really feels to remember past lives. I also know other people who remember theirs. They went through a natural process of remembering and experienced how those memories changed their lives from before to after. This is very different from the sleeper sessions. I'll try to describe to you through my own example the difference between just imagining something and actually recalling your past lives. I'll explain my feelings and the profound understanding that arises when memories surface. Originally, I thought I might structure this video in a neat textbook style, saying we'll discuss points 1, 2, and 3, but that felt impersonal. Instead, I want to share my story in detail, just as I did in videos about communicating with the departed at a funeral. Recently, I even had the chance to talk to another person in between incarnations, so to speak. But let's leave that aside for now and focus on my memories of a past life. Probably the first flashbacks, I'll call them, that came around the time I was 5 years old. These were conscious flashbacks. Before that, my mother told me that when I was about to write after I started speaking, I talked about dancing at a ball in front of a queen, something like that. Of course, she found it amusing and dismissed it. I can't confirm what I said at age 2 because I don't remember it myself, but my mom swears I said those things. My grandmother, being a Soviet era woman, didn't believe in anything otherworldly. She mostly ignored such talk, though she clearly remembers me doing other unusual things like using touch to relieve headaches to treat my grandfather's back with my hands. She told me about that many times. Anyway, these first conscious flashbacks started around age 5. The first ones came through dreams. I repeatedly dreamed I was entering an old castle, something that looked European, made of dark stone like in medieval films. I would walk inside this large two-story hall with big stone or marble tiles on the floor. There was a grand double staircase leading up to the second floor, which had a kind of balcony or parapet. In this dream, I always knew I had to get to that second floor because someone was waiting for me there. But as soon as I made it to about the middle of the hall, the floor beneath me started collapsing. The tiles fell away into a fiery abyss, and I was falling in as well. Just before I hit the flames, I would wake up. Even at 5, I sensed something terrible had happened to me in another time. Some awful tragedy, something akin to falling into a fire or burning alive. I couldn't articulate it well at that age, but I still remember the dream vividly. Down to the smallest detail, I can recall the aftertaste of it even now. A friend of mine, who also remembers about 10 of his own past lives, says he too first recalled a past life through a recurring dream he had from childhood on he was about 20. He kept dreaming of running under heavy military fire, trying to save someone, and the dream would end just seconds before his death, just like I woke up right before hitting the flames. His dream and mine weren't the same scenario, of course, but both revealed echoes of a previous existence. So if any of you listening now have a recurring dream that started in childhood, perhaps this could be the echo of a memory from one of your past lives. I had these flashbacks that felt irrational, moments where people were physically abused, like having needles pushed under their skin. You know, those scenes in certain action or interrogation movies. I couldn't bear to watch stuff like that. It seemed like it was happening to me. For instance, I remember seeing a movie with a scene like that. I was absolutely terrified, and I couldn't recover for a long time afterward, as though I couldn't process it. Later, there were strange reactions when there was any threat of physical violence toward me, like if someone was about to fight me. If someone tried to raise a hand against me, I'd have an incredibly intense reaction. I won't describe it in detail, but I offered a very forceful defense. In that moment, there was a feeling deep in my chest, a certainty that no one would ever touch me again, that I wouldn't allow anyone in this life to inflict such physical pain on me. I didn't really understand why I felt that, because no one had actually beaten me as a child. I never experienced physical abuse that would justify such a strong stance against ever being touched again. But that was how I reacted. These are very irrational moments. I'm telling you all this so you understand that memories of past lives don't just appear instantly. It's not like suddenly something clicks and you remember everything, especially with traumatic experiences. The psyche in this life prepares itself very carefully for that. For example, I would constantly look at a piano and think I somehow knew how to press the keys, but I just couldn't remember exactly how. It felt like I'd done it before. That's the sense of DEG, view you know you've done this, but for some reason you can't do it now. Many of you who suspect you have past life memories might recognize something similar. Maybe you feel like you know how to draw, but you can't quite manage it now. Or you've always loved ballet, wanted to dance, yet it never worked out. Yet it all still feels so familiar, so dear to you. or it could relate to certain places. For me, for instance, it's the Arabian desert. I see it in a photo or a video and I'm mesmerized. I desperately want to go there. I feel like my soul is calling me. I sense some kind of connection with it. If you have these feelings, pay attention to them. They may reveal more about who you are than, say, a fortune teller reading coffee grounds. You're the one who knows best sometimes. We just don't notice these signals. I've told people this before. Look for those little things that draw you in. Old objects, ancient times, or certain places that feel incredibly familiar. Like your soul is connected to them. When you begin to explore such cause and effect connections, you might get more flashbacks. Those could be negative or positive. You might remember sitting at a piano, crocheting curtains, or something else equally benign. Even that can be a past life memory. Let me tell you about another crucial factor when it comes to genuinely recalling past lives, a factor both I and others have experienced. It's this: truly remembering our past life isn't just a casual popcorn munching event. It takes significant psychological preparation. When we truly recall a moment, even a simple one like crocheting a doily, we find ourselves in that memory the way we recall our current life. Just as you might recall going to school as a child, or how a neighborhood kid gave you candy or threw a rock at you. You remember yourself as that other personality. You sense who your parents were, your children said if you had them, and your friends. Suddenly you're there, feeling love for the people you loved, longing for people you might never see again in this life. That's when reality can feel like it's splitting. Who am I now? Am I that person from before, or the person I am in this life? And usually, along with these memories, you also recall moments of death, which are never pleasant to relive. Psychologically, it's tough to handle though. So that's why true, full-blown memories of a past life need a very strong level of mental and emotional readiness. It's not easy at all. That's why I sometimes find these stories comical. Someone says they lay down for 2 hours and afterward recounted everything about their children in a past life. And boom, that's it. No, from my experience and from talking to other people who genuinely remember their past lives, it was an incredibly painful process, one that cannot be brushed off lightly. We talked about how he died in one of his past lives. He remembered a duel over a woman in which he lost. He recalled what happened there, what happened with his wife, how much he loved her, and all the details of that event. I remember how difficult it was for him to process all of that. It was so hard for him to deal with because he kept saying, I don't understand. It hurts me so much right now. Oh, I love her so much, but I realize this all happened long ago. I'm a completely different person now. I live here. I have a new name, a new life, yet the memory of her is so vivid in my mind and I don't know what to do with it. That is what a real memory of a past life feels like. It's about confronting these things in the present. So it seems strange to me when people claim, oh, you were so and so in the past. You were Calypso or the Queen of Sheba and so on. Like, really, because when it comes to genuine memories, you can immerse yourself in that state. For instance, today I was reminded again of one of my past life memories, how I felt in that body, with that other personality, that different way of perceiving the world. For a short while, I slipped into that feeling of being me in another form. But it's practically impossible to reproduce that state now simply by sitting in a chair. My current body and Psyche can't recreate that exact feeling. But when I plunged into the memory which came from the soul and was interpreted to my brain, I could momentarily experience it again, and it gave me so much. Because when you don't just hear, oh, you were this or that, but you can actually feel and touch it, that's a real memory of the past. That's different from some superficial story someone tries to spin. Of course, remembering past lives has both pros and cons. I want to briefly talk about them. One of the pros is that these flashback memories strengthen your belief that life isn't isolated. You realize you are much more than what you see right now, something bigger and more powerful. But thirdly, there's a sense of being ancient or wise, not limited to just this one lifetime. Personally, these flashbacks helped me tremendously in understanding that I am more than people think when they say, you're just a small, clueless being. Someone else knows better than you. No, I know I have lived more than one life. I'm a rather ancient, powerful soul with plenty of experience behind me, so it gives me more confidence in what I feel and understand. It might even be more effective and insightful than what others try to impose on me. On the other hand, I see a flip side to it all. In my case, I started having these flashbacks and memories very early on. My soul is powerful and ancient enough to upload that memory into me without an external guide, no one saying, yes, yes, everything you're experiencing is normal. I had to go through it by myself. That wasn't easy at all. And there are quite a few drawbacks to remember. First, you remember people, events, loves, and hatreds that no longer exist here and now, but you still feel them. For instance, you might long to hug the parents you had in a previous life, yet they aren't here, or someone else you deeply cared about is nowhere to be found. Experiencing those memories in the present can be tough. Eventually, you integrate these recollections, but it's difficult, and not everyone's psyche can handle it. There's also the matter of getting so caught up in the past that you miss out on the present. We have that saying, if you bury yourself in the past, you lose the present. And that can definitely happen with past life memories. We might spend our energy digging around in what was, maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't, and meanwhile we have our life here, which needs our attention right now. When I've had intense unpackings of past life recollections, I drag those memories into the present. The line got blurred. I wasn't fully living in this life anymore. I was stuck trying to fix or relive something back then. That's not good if we stay in that state. Another downside is that when I got a bit stuck in these memories, I couldn't snap out of that past life personality. It's not multiple personality disorder. It's just feeling like that other person while still being aware in this body. You don't know who you really are in that moment. And then there's the physical effect, hormonal changes, for instance, because our body literally adapts to how we perceive ourselves. We've discussed this in other contexts like changing appearance or health through mindset and intention. The same mechanism applies here. If you remain in that other self-perception, your body will try to adjust to it. It can cause a lot of confusion. Still, memories from past lives can be extremely important, and it's crucial to know how to handle them. If you really want to remember, if you feel you need to, how do you go about it? If you're already experiencing flashbacks, how do you live with that and process it? And why do some people remember so much while others can't, no matter how hard they try? We'll talk about all that in the next video. That's all for now. I hope my experience was helpful to someone.